One of Joe Cottonwood's poems recently appeared on a 9-foot tall billboard in the Kew Gardens in London, England. Joe's latest book of poetry is Random Saints. He's a semi-retired home repair contractor and a lifelong writer, dodging wildfires and sheltering with his high school sweetheart in the Santa Cruz Mountains of California. You can visit him at joecottonwood.com, and he is happy to be called an old hippie. Please welcome Joe.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's funny, that old hippie thing. I used to hate to be called a hippie back in the hippie days, you know, because but you know, back then it was a statement of fashion, and now it's a statement of values. So that's the difference between an old hippie and a hippie, I guess. So I'm going to read. Well, I want to start with a poem I wrote just very well. I can tell you exactly the day. I wrote it on the night of September 9th last year. September 9th was the day that we had no day, at least where I live. The smoke from the wildfires was so dense that at least on the peninsula where I am in the mountains, there was no sunlight. I mean, you're indoors and you look out the window and it's black. And you step outside and you see, oh, it's not night, it's like late twilight. And I had to drive to Half Moon Bay that day, and at noon, all the cars had their headlights on. And there was this, as I ran my errands, you could see in the faces of the people above their masks, you could just see their eyes. And there was this sense of dread and another sense, a sense of, we're all in this together. We have no differences, but this, you know, this is bigger than us, and we need to get together. And I wrote home and I wrote this poem that night, and it's been, it's been picked up all over the world. It was translated to Italian and posted all over. Anyway, this is called One Day There Was No Day. One day there was no day. No birds sang at dawn because there was no dawn. We walked our dogs by flashlight. One day there was no sun. Through smoky veils, you could stare directly at a floating tangerine. One day there was no noon. Owls hooted. Crickets chirped. Porch lights never dimmed. Deer wandered the streets, blinking tears of soot. If you can't count on day following night, what can you count on? One day there was no me, no you. One day we were we, scared, seeking touch. Please, hold my hand. You mentioned, it's such a goofy fact about me that I put it in my biography, you know, that I have a poem on a 9-foot tall billboard in the Kew Gardens in London. I mean, did you know there's a redwood grove in London, England, in the Kew Gardens? And the Kew Gardens contacted me and asked me to write a poem in honor of their redwood grove. I don't know how they got my name, but I do. I've been living under the redwoods for 50 years, so I know something about them. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And I just froze. I couldn't, I didn't know how to get into it. So I asked my wife, Barbara, if you were talking about a redwood tree, what would you say? And she thought for a minute and said, they always seem to know what they're doing. And that was it. That was the key. And I got right into the poem, and in a half hour, I had the whole poem written. So here it is. Because a redwood grove. Because naturally, upon entering, you lower your voice. Because through branches on high, fluffs of fog drift in shafts of sunlight. Because you've met this feeling in cathedral, mosque, temple. Because a redwood seems always to know what it's doing. Because your body feels small. Because your spirit grows large. Because a redwood with its power will never preach, makes no demands, sips from the clouds, swallows the sunlight, shelters the chipmunk, the owl, you. Because a redwood takes the long view, because the redwood withstands flame, has kinship to stone, to river and earth, to the patience of stars, to the holy. Because you forgot the question, but a redwood grove is the answer. Here's an older poem called, my sister teaches English as a second language. She's been teaching in San Jose years and years and years, and she shares the stories with me that students tell her. And it's just so touching. They're mostly Vietnamese, or they were back then. I don't know, she's retired now. So I wrote this, called English as a Second Language. 20 adults, all Vietnamese, sit respectfully in a classroom, San Jose City College, eager to learn, but silent. The point is to talk in English, so the instructor asks, "How did you get here?" Hesitantly, first one, "She walked 100 kilometers carrying 2 children, paid a boatman, took many people. The boat sank, a child drowned." Next one, "Attacked by pirates, daughter stolen, never seen again." Then an outpouring, typhus, an ambush, cheated, an angel in the form of a helicopter, courage, heartbreak, luck, and plenty of talk. Next class, "What is the most beautiful sight you've ever beheld?" They traveled reluctantly half the planet. "What splendors have passed their eyes?" A hesitation, then the first. "Most beautiful thing I ever see is San Jose Airport." Immediately a chorus, they all agree. First glimpse descending from broken clouds, tarmac, landing lights, San Jose Airport, beauty. Here's one, well, I have to have a pandemic poem. Starts with my high school crush. You know, the advantage of being older poet is you have a whole lifetime to spread your stories out. You know, I feel sorry for the younger poets who, I mean, when you're 20, how much lifetime experience can you put into a poem? I don't know. I mean, I thought I had plenty when I was 20, but it turns out I didn't. Anyway, this one starts back when I was in middle school. It's called Crush. Crush. Sharon in middle school floated as a cloud. Some days a fragrance like ferns unfurling. Others a wincing waft like bad hygiene. I sure as hell wouldn't ask. Others would. "Sorry," she'd say, her voice deep for a girl, her eyes a flash of anger. No excuse, no explanation, kept to herself. A pear-shaped body, a gorgeous smile. One day in the library, the warble of a thrush startled me. Sharon, her laughter over a book. She had a boyfriend who was older, prep school. I rode my Raleigh 3-speed, the miles to her house. From the wide street, I stared at sunny windows, white curtains, until I felt stupid, pedaled home. Did I see you on my street? She asked next day. Yes. No excuse, no explanation. 26 years later, like a bullet, sudden pain, I fell down shouting, "Ag!" The ER doctor called it epidemic pleurisy, also known as devil's grip, an infection surrounding the lungs. And yes, it comes fast and feels like it's crushing. Took your breath away, did it? Above the white coat, her face, a fragrance like ferns unfurling. And I said, "Hey, remember me?" The thrush laugh, a gorgeous smile, deep voice. You were the quiet type, so this should be easy. Just go home and rest. 22 more years pass by, and yesterday, out of the blue, she messages me. You okay? You keeping safe? No explanation, no excuse. Some threads are invisible as virus. I tell her I'm safe, sheltering in place. What's up? She's still ER, pandemic frontline. She writes, a surgeon died. A moment later, my husband. I tell her I'm so sorry. How awful, how sad. A minute passes. Then her final message. I don't know what made me think of you. That's it. All right, let's lighten up. As Sandy said, I've spent 40 years in the construction business, doing all kinds of nasty stuff. So I've got poems that come out of that. This one's called She, a Girl, Was the Best Finnish Carpenter. She, a girl, was the best Finnish carpenter we'd ever seen. Her age, 17. Learned the trade from her dad. After hazing, nothing nasty, we sort of normalized her, sort of not. Found reasons to be within sight of her for crown molding, as she was short and had to stretch, until she called us creepy and we stopped. But geez, hanging a door was like a ballet, strength and grace. Not classic beauty, more stocky and square. We gave her the tasks where perfect would count, because she was. By the end of the summer, we all treated her like a kid sister. She brought Vivaldi for the boombox to replace our twangy slop. She chalked little flowers, hearts and dragonflies in the rough opening before trimming the frame. So in demolition, a century from now, somebody might find them. Earned enough for first semester at college. Promised she'd come back and visit. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she met some brooding poet. We speak of her sometimes after all these years. It's like opening a wall, finding a chalk dragonfly. I'm not, should I aim for being done at 7? Is that the goal here? Okay.
That would be good, Joe, yeah.
Okay, I'll just keep going until I hit that. Here's an odd one. Speaking of being an old hippie, this is called Kitty Capitalism Karma. Before I got into construction, when I first came to San Francisco, I'd take any job I could, and I ended up working in this job here. Okay, kitty capitalism karma. In the old days, they smoosh your credit card with a slider and you sign a receipt with an actual pen. They rip out carbons and flimsy slips, one for you, one for them, one which goes to a factory in San Francisco, where in 1970, a hippie can work night shift. We whoosh stacks of tissue-thin papers through machines that mostly do not mangle them, so upstairs a bank can send you a bill that mostly is correct. One dawn as I leave work, as my long sun-rising shadow walks to my old VW Beetle, a credit slip blows across the lot, slaps against my shoe. So I bend and pick it up. 16 cans of cat food, $8 and change. My moral choice to either go straight home and let some lucky woman get free kitty food, or return the slip and let the merchant be paid. To my surprise, I choose to return. Feeling the fool, I hand in the slip, expecting no reward from the implacable gods of capitalism. Hand it to the machinery amid the smell of paper dust and carbon inks, which are actually made of soot and wax. Did you know? Anyway, a minute's delay in my departure. So, on the way home, the Porsche that loses control on 101 and plows head-on into two oncoming cars, killing 6 people, happens a minute before I drive up in my Beetle. One more? Okay. I have to do a dog poem. I always do a dog poem. So here's one I haven't read to this group. It's called Quinn is So Sorry. Quinn is so sorry. When a full-grown German Shepherd bites a baby, the dog loses. Quinn knows the rules. His canine tooth ripped a small hole in the baby's cheek. Now all is confusion as Quinn grovels for forgiveness. Baby cries in mother's arms. Mother dabs at the little spot of blood. No big deal. Baby crawling across the floor touched the food bowl while Quinn was eating. A flash of reflex. Wolf instinct. Defend the food. It's our fault for not watching out. Baby cries, Quinn whimpers, we explain, guilty parents, guilty dog, all needing translators, but we know Quinn, the protector, would die defending that baby. Lesson learned. Forget the doctor who might report us for bad parenting or bad dogging or, geez, they might kill Quinn. So we treat the babe ourselves. And my son, now age 32, still has a scar in the cheek. He loves dogs.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks,
That was
Thanks for listening.